This video is brought to you by the Honolulu Tenants Union. The Honolulu Tenants Union is an all-volunteer organization created for tenants by tenants. We're dedicated to pushing back against abusive landlords, building tenant power, and fighting for housing as a human right. If you're sick of ignored maintenance requests, stolen deposits, the outrageous cost of rent, and seeing friends and family forced to move, join the Honolulu Tenants Union today by visiting hnltenantsunion.org/join. Today we will be discussing the Eviction Basics and how to find a return court date. This presentation is put on by the Honolulu Tenants Union, and as a quick disclaimer, we're not lawyers. This is not meant to be legal advice. And with that, let's continue. So first I'm going to begin with an overview of some eviction basics. Your rent is due on the date designated in your lease agreement. There's no grace period unless indicated in the lease. Depending on your circumstances, the length of notice your landlord needs to provide before filing for eviction will differ. So basically, depending on the reason they're trying to file for eviction, they need to give you a different amount of notice. So in the case of staying beyond your lease without your landlord consenting, your landlord can file for eviction without providing any notice at all. If you didn't pay rent on time, your landlord is required to give you notice allowing you to pay or move out within 5 business days. This would be the law normally. However, as a note, until August 6th, 2022, this has been changed and extended, so you have 15 business days. They're required to give you 15 days notice. For general lease violations, your landlord must provide 10 days notice. And if your landlord is contemplating voluntary demolition or conversion to a condominium, they need to give you 120 days notice. So this is kind of a breakdown of the timeline. If your landlord is trying to evict you for non-payment of rent, they would be required to give you 15 days written notice. Again, this is just until August 6, 2022, at which point it would revert back, most likely to 5 days written notice, depending on if they decide to extend that. Then you're supposed to be offered mediation. And if you're not offered mediation, you should try to see if you can get mediation by reaching out to the Mediation Center of the Pacific, if that's something that you want. But as of now, it is required to have the option of mediation. Assuming you don't comply with the notice, a complaint would be filed by the landlord and served on the tenant. And a return court date will be scheduled 5 business days after the date of service. So basically 5 business days after the complaint the landlord filed is served to the tenant or to serve to you, there'd be a return court date. And that's very confusing, and we'll go over how to find out when the actual date of this return court date is, because it can be very confusing and a lot of people miss that. Then you'd go to your return court date, enter a procedural denial, and the trial date would be set by the judge. And I'll go over what that means in a little bit. Then there would be the actual court date where the judge decides whether or not to rule in the landlord's favor or your favor, and decides whether or not the landlord is going to get possession over the unit again. And that may include damages, but it may not. There may also be a separate court date for damages. And damages are just things like attorney's fees, court costs, back rent, things of that nature. Okay, so here's just a kind of visual representation of how this would look. So the landlord gives notice of violation, depending again on why they're doing that. How much notice they give you will depend. In the case of non-payment of rent, one more time, that's 15 days, business days. There's supposed to be the option of mediation, and I'll post a link in the in the notes for this video on how to find the Mediation Center of the Pacific, or if you live on a different island, you may have to reach out to another organization, but that option should be available to you. Now, if you comply with the notice, if you're able to for some reason, probably you're not able to, and that's why you weren't able to pay rent. But if you were, then the process ends. If you're not able to comply with the notice, then the landlord can file an eviction complaint. That complaint and a summons, basically telling you to come to the court, is served to you. It's delivered to you. And 5 business days after that summons and complaint are served to you is your return court date. And this is really crucial. Your return court date or return hearing is very often, missed by tenants because it's just so hard to figure out when it actually is. It's not clear by looking at the summons when it is. And so we recommend going to eCourt Kokua and just looking it up, because that's the surest way to make sure you find out when it actually is, so you actually show up to it, and it's very important to be there. So to do that, you're going to go to the court website, which the URL is listed up here, but I'll also put it in the notes. You can look at this blue sidebar here and click on the eCourt Kokua link right here. And it will take you to another page which looks very similar to the last one. But you'll notice that it does say eCourt Kokua right here, where this orange arrow is. Don't let this confuse you over here. It's still here, but you're on another page now. As long as you see the eCourt Kokua, you're good. And you can see the different kinds of cases and title. In this case, it's district court. Evictions will be under district court. And you're going to want to scroll down to enter eCourt Kokua. So we've scrolled down to the bottom of the page now. And you'll notice at the bottom of this page, there's a button, a blue bar, that says, click here to enter eCourt Kokua. You're going to want to click on this, and it will allow you to enter eCourt Kokua. First, there will be a disclaimer, so feel free to read through that. If you accept, to enter the site, you need to accept. It will ask you to complete a CAPTCHA, and then you can enter the site. There's a few different ways to search. You can see here. There's also a party search up here. But the easiest way is to search by your name. So this one here. And you can select that option, and you can search by name. When you click on the button, it will take you to another page that looks like this, where you can enter your name, outlined in blue here. You can put your last name and first name. There will be a bunch of different results for the types of cases, but you should be able to find your return court date. So here's an example of an eviction case. All the information has been redacted, but this is sort of what it would look like. And you're going to want to click on Events, and it will take you to a page like this, another tab. And if you'll notice in the bottom left there's the answer/return. And this is what you're going to want to look for. And over to the right, you can see here's the time and location, as well as the date would be here, but it's been redacted. But if it were not redacted, it would be right here. And this is how you can find out when and where your return court date is. Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's really important to actually attend this. If you don't appear at the return hearing, the judge will basically decide in the landlord's favor, and there'll be a judgment for possession, meaning that you have to leave. So definitely show up. If you show up, though, and you admit fault, the judge will also side with the landlord, and there'll be judgment for possession, meaning that you will have to leave again. If you deny fault, you actually get the opportunity to present some sort of offense for yourself. So if you may not realize what defenses that you have, but if you deny fault, you actually get an opportunity to state your case. Whereas if you admit fault, you automatically basically you lose the case basically. So if you deny fault, then you can actually go on to your trial, and there will be a court date scheduled for. It depends on how on I guess how crowded the courts are, but maybe several weeks after that. It depends. But this will be an opportunity for an actual date to present evidence and for the judge to decide, whether or not there will be summary possession. And this court date may include summary, may include damages, or there may be another trial scheduled for damages. Now, if you win the trial for summary possession, that means you get to stay in your home. However, if not, a writ of possession will be issued. And this basically is just a document saying, that the landlord is going to take over control of the property again, and you're not able to stay. Now, in the case that a writ of possession has been issued and you decide to remain in your apartment or your whatever kind of unit it is, if you decide to move out, if you don't decide to remain in the unit and you move out, the legal process ends. And if you do decide to remain in your unit, a state sheriff, and it's supposed to be the state sheriff, not just like regular police officers. It's only the state sheriff that can remove you from the unit. And at that point, the legal process ends again.